Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, our beautiful country, how we're going to fix this bad boy together. And guys, what would you do if on this Saturday I told you that Democrats all of a sudden are rallying with their letter writing skills, begging the Trump administration to stop the smuggling of guns from the United States down into Mexico? Because after all, the cartel is now deemed a terrorist organization, even though those same Democrats said we shouldn't deem them a terrorist organization, but now they are a terrorist organization. We can interrupt the smuggling that was going on underneath the Biden administration, which was defunded by Steve Dettelbach, the director of the ATF, under a project called Project Thor. But now, smuggling is a problem for the Dems. Oh, the irony. Everything I've got for you is going to be linked in the description box below. I always bring the receipts. And of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on. You guys are sticking it to the YouTube censorship program that they got with the unsubscribe action. Yeah. Thank you so much for doing that. You're sticking a finger right in the eye to their surreptitious desires. All right. Let's get into this, beautiful people, because now it's all in vogue to go after smuggling. But back when Biden was doing it and defunding it, it's the gun owner. It's your fault. But now all of a sudden it's back on the bad guys. All right. You can, of course, follow me at Braden LOA. A bunch of you are jumping over there. We are about to break 12,500 followers because of you guys, and thank you so much for that. It's a great conversation. I love talking with you guys and interacting, but let's get into this. Democrats urge the Trump administration to ramp up efforts to curb trafficking of U.S.-made guns across the border. Now, I'm sure a lot of you, before I read the details here, are reminded of something called Project Thor. You probably are reminded of that because we banged a drum on it here on this channel for about a year. Now, you'll of course remember from Project Thor, that's an ATF program. Now, what that program did was it infiltrated and mapped out all the smuggling purchases that were basically smuggling of guns that was done through straw purchases in an entire network nationwide by the ATF. Now, Biden defunded it and disbanded it, which basically said smuggling is perfectly fine from criminals. But all of a sudden, the Democrats are now urging the Trump administration to do something about it. Yeah, I've got it all right here. As you can see, the article is from May 9th, 2025, so this is yesterday. Washington. A group of House and Senate Democrats is urging top Trump administration officials to use the recent designation of Latin American cartels and gangs as foreign terrorist organizations to take action to curtail the flow of American-made guns across the southern border. Again, I find it a little ironic the Democrats were also saying that you can't just designate everyone terrorist, but we'll let that slide for right now. The 14 Democratic lawmakers said in a letter to the Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Attorney General Pam Bondi that the designation unlocks additional legal tools that would allow the administration to disrupt the cartel's financial networks and impose harsher penalties on entities providing material support. You know, I don't remember them asking Biden to do that when they were in control. In fact, Biden completely defunded and disbanded the effort to stop smuggling. Isn't that weird? I think it's weird, but I'm sure we'll figure out what's up here later on in these highlights. Now, the Democrats have urged the Departments of Homeland Security, State, and Justice to take immediate steps to stem the flow of firearms manufactured in the U.S. Into Mexico by boosting interagency cooperation to dismantle smuggling rings that facilitate gun trafficking, expanding inspections at border crossings. I thought border crossings was bad. Apparently, it's only if guns are going out, but people going in is cool. Increasing law enforcement efforts against straw purchased and gun dealers that provide material support to smugglers. Yeah, straw purchasing is already against the law. And bolstering intelligence sharing between the U.S. and Mexican authorities. Okay, let's jump right down into here because this is where it starts to fall apart real quick. Because a lot of you guys, like I said in the intro, will remember something called Project Thor that Steve Dettelbach, the acting ATF director, and Joe Biden's administration completely defunded. Yep. An investigation, whoa, it jumped around. All right. An investigation from CBS Reports exposed how Americans are helping Mexican drug cartels smuggle weapons across the U.S.-Mexico border. Guns are purchased by straw purchasers in the U.S., and a network of brokers and couriers then transport them across the border into Mexico. U.S. intelligence documents and interviews with current and former federal officials reveal that the federal government has known about the weapons trafficked by cartels for years, but has done little to stop the networks that operate in the U.S. See, now you're starting to get to the truth. They always bury the lead. Known for years. Well, who was president for the last 4 years? And who had an ATF director who defunded Project Thor for 4 years? See, they're stopping short of saying the Biden administration did this, because you can't have anything bad for the Biden administration, even though it was a lesson in ineptitude. But I'm going to show you all the receipts here in a second. One component of doing that has got to be stopping the Iron River streamline of American guns going into the cartel's hands, said Dan Goldman, who's a Democrat. Goldman introduced legislation in the last Congress that aimed to strengthen border security by curbing the trafficking of U.S.-made guns and ammunition across the southern border, and said he is working to reintroduce the bill in the current Congress. I don't remember a companion bill that said maybe don't send people across one way or drugs across one way. I remember that happening a lot, but apparently drugs going across the border this way along with people, fine. Guns going down from the north to the south, that's the problem. Well, guys, I told you I'd bring the receipts, and here it is. Grassley releases additional records demonstrating success of shuttered ATF anti-arms trafficking operations and demands an explanation for its closure. Now, this is Chuck Grassley. This is a senator. New internal ATF records show that Project Thor's strong track record for cracking down on dangerous cross-border gun smuggling. That's weird. Because, again, here's another from Senator Grassley. He's releasing whistleblower documents and a multi-agency probe into American cartel gun running. Now, again, these are all existing criminals. Why was this allowed under the Biden administration if it's such a huge deal? Well, let's jump over to NSSF. Senator Grassley has released documents that were sent to 9 federal law enforcement agencies within the Departments of Justice, Homeland Security, State, and U.S. Postal Service. He is seeking answers to a secretive ATF operation that the Biden administration still refuses to acknowledge exists, Project Thor. That was a successful operation to interdict illegal firearms smuggling from the United States to Mexico. It was successful until the Biden administration pulled the plug. Now, why wouldn't that be in the CBS News report? I find that weird. The American people deserve to know more about the Biden administration's strategy to target cartel firearms networks in the U.S., Senator Grassley wrote, according to CBS News. CBS investigated illicit gun trafficking to Mexico on their own. They found Mexican drug cartels were funneling firearms, including military-grade firearms, to Mexico. Criminals going to criminal. But let's look. There's some more stuff. Again, why was it halted? Guys, I always bring the receipts. Justice Department official told Senator Grassley they were unfamiliar with Project Thor, so now it's a mystery back in the Biden administration. A claim that the senator found surprising, since documents his office uncovered identified 16 executive branch agencies, including the DOJ, DEA, and FBI, and other documents indicated the U.S. Embassy in Mexico was prepared to brief U.S. Ambassador to Mexico Ken Salazar shortly after his arrival. That briefing was verified in ATF emails uncovered by Senator Grassley. It's all a lie. That's the point. It doesn't exist. We're the Biden administration. We have Steve Dettelbach. We would never we wouldn't defund it because it doesn't exist. Hey, here's a briefing to the U.S. ambassador in Mexico, and then here's an ATF email chain that says about the briefing in Mexico about Project Thor. That doesn't exist. Don't believe your lying eyes. The government wouldn't lie to you. Oh my goodness. But why was it halted after all? But I think we've proven it existed. By all indications, Project Thor was a success until it was defunded by the ATF. Given the reports, Project Thor successfully identified and shared intelligence to law enforcement agencies government-wide to aid investigations and prosecutions of these types of cases. The American people deserve to know why the ATF has chosen to defund Project Thor and use its resources to target FFLs and individual law-abiding gun owners, Senator Grassley wrote. To ATF Director Steve Dettelbach. Guys, we have all the receipts. We have memories. This is exactly what just happened. They were targeting you while dropping all of the smuggling. My guess, and this is my speculation, you can let me know what you think in the comments. My speculation is that if there's more crime, there's more reason to infringe upon your rights with legislation. You know, call me a conspiracy theorist. But let's wrap this up a little bit about, suspect timing. Look at this. So instead of focusing on criminal cartels, the Biden administration and the ATF have shifted focus to indiscriminately targeting lawful firearm owners, purchasers, and sellers instead of using intelligence and whole of government approach to identify and target the leadership and networks directing the trafficking of firearms from the U.S. to Mexico, Grassley wrote. And wouldn't you know it, guys, that the timing to wrap this entire video up correlates with a $10 billion lawsuit from Mexico directly into the gun manufacturers? It's almost like if you get rid of the guns that are going into Mexico, Mexico wouldn't have standing to sue you for $10 billion. Okay, last thing. The timing of the decision to cut off funding for Project Thor is suspect, especially since there were indications that it was disrupting cartel cells as far north as Washington State and Maine. The federal government and as many as 16 federal law enforcement agencies were penetrating those networks that were repeatedly sending actual automatic firearms into Mexico to arm narco-terrorists. It begs the question as to why the ATF would pull the plug. What else could be going on? And right in the next sentence, August 2021, Mexico filed its $10 billion lawsuit against U.S. firearm manufacturers. I don't know. Maybe it's a coincidence. You guys let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.